Next, we're going to review solving for a missing side in a right triangle. So again, we're going to use SOHCAHTOA to set up our equation to solve for x. So from the angle, we know the opposite, and we know we're looking for the hypotenuse. So we're going to use sine of the angle, sine of 45 degrees, equals opposite over hypotenuse. Now, because x is in the denominator, we need to get it out, so we're going to multiply both sides by x. And then to finish solving for x, we're going to divide by the sine of 45. Now our angle is in degrees, so if your calculator can switch modes, you need to make sure that your calculator is in degree mode before you evaluate. So I would grab your calculator. If you know how to check the mode, check it. If not, type in 20 divided by sine 45. If you get 28.284, your calculator is in degree mode. If you do not, your calculator is not in degree mode, and I can help you fix that if you're not sure where to find it. Last one, of course, we have to have a word problem. So we've got an angle of depression. So what you need to know about an angle of depression is that it is formed by a horizontal line and a line of sight down. So when you draw your triangle, this is the angle of depression. We're also going to be looking at angles of elevation. An angle of elevation is formed by a horizontal line and a line of sight up. So this would be an angle of elevation. A lot of students get angles of depression wrong because they form it with a vertical line and a line of sight off to the side. So make sure when you do angles of elevation and angles of depression, you always start with a horizontal line before you create your line of sight. All right, so we have an airplane beginning its descent. I know I am the world's best artist, can't you tell? From an altitude of 30,000 feet. Here's why most students get that angle of depression wrong, because we're thinking about the plane being 30,000 feet off the ground, and we make our line right by the plane. But remember, when you form a rectangle, opposite sides are equal, so we can have the 30,000 feet for the altitude over here as well. And then it says the airport is 5 miles away. Now typically when we talk about distance, we talk about horizontal distance or distance along the ground. But remember, using that rectangle, it's also the line at the top, or that horizontal line. And we're looking for the angle of depression, and we have that marked as theta. So before we begin, we're going to have to convert that 5 miles to feet. There are 5,280 feet in a mile. When we multiply that, we get 26,400 feet. Setting up our equation, we have the opposite, we have the adjacent, so that will be tangent of theta equals 30,000 over 26,400. Now to solve for theta, we're going to use the inverse function. So we're going to do the tangent inverse. We can't divide by tangent because remember, we're not multiplying by tangent. We are taking the tangent of the angle. The inverse tangent, lost my 6, is going to cancel the tangent and give us theta. Again, making sure you are in degree mode if you're not already. And I got 48.65 degrees. You only need to keep 2 decimal places with degrees. It's not as important to be that accurate, or 3 decimal places accurate with degree measures. All right, so the first U-try is just checking out to see if you know how to use your calculator to evaluate some of the trig functions, especially some of those new ones. Remember, the new ones are the reciprocals of the ones that you already know. Your calculator doesn't actually have a cosecant, a secant, or a tangent button, so you will have to do 1 over the trig function that it's the reciprocal of. And then the second one is looking for an angle of elevation. So make sure you understand what an angle of elevation is.